Hey guys, welcome back. This is the NBA 2K Corner 3 show, and I got to tell you, Colin was nice enough to join me again. As I was editing my first shoot of the interview, the file got corrupted, and he is so gracious to join us one more time as we're recording on Thursday evening. Colin, thank you so much. I
Yeah,
really
absolutely, man.
appreciate it.
Yeah, no
Um,
problem. It
it,
happens.
no problem. So, guys, this is going to be a little bit of an abbreviated interview. I know I usually like to tell the story of each director, but I want to give you guys what you want. I want to get to your questions. And we had some news drop today. So, Colin, just tell the viewers a little bit about your experience with the Bucks and then how you transitioned into your role with Bucks Gaming.
Yeah, so I've been with the Bucks for about 3 years, mostly in a business development role. And then March of 2017, the NBA sent out a memo saying, each team that wants to participate in the NBA 2K League that we're launching this year, needs to respond and tell us who's kind of in contact. Me being from the business development side, knew we'd obviously have to have some business model behind it to monetize it, to extend it, to grow it, to make sure the investment made sense. I said, I want to be in some of the meetings. I want to hear about this, and I want to know how we can, make this most successful. A day later, my boss came back to me and told me, "Congratulations, you're running it. Good luck." So that's kind of how we pulled into the whole thing, and it's been a trip ever since.
That's awesome. And I know we talked about this earlier. Like, you didn't have some of the rest of the directors like professional experience in esports. You were just eager for the opportunity to learn, and then they rewarded you for being for technically being first to market with that job. So, what were some of the things you learned about esports as you dug in and got to access to the research?
Of course, the numbers were astonishing when we first looked into it. Kind of the engagement was unbelievable, and it's in terms of hours, but that all kind of made sense. It all applied to things that I did kind of in college and what I wanted to do in high school, but my parental supervision wouldn't exactly allow me to optimize that time. But people just resonate in terms of watching the same content that they're also playing, and they're doing it for hours, and then kind of that community vibe that really drives this whole community. To be redundant, it's really magical. It's powerful. It's beneficial because everyone really wants to help each other out, and everyone gets that this is like people's passion, and everyone's working towards kind of bettering that whole community. So I think those are really the anecdotal things that I saw. But like I said, the numbers were astonishing, and we had some experience with an endemic brand of FlyQuest, our connection. We can get into later if we want to, but that exposure was really cool. And looking at how these things had organically already grown was really interesting to us.
Yeah, and that communal aspect you touched on. I'm sure you got to see that across esports, but then once you see the NBA 2K one specifically, like, just got to be blown away with the way people are just open to sharing and commenting and finding. Like, I had no clue before I got into this, like, there were accounts solely based to help people find games. Like, that to me is incredible. That's a really good sign of like this community is positivity. Like, I was blown away when I first saw that.
Yeah, no doubt. That's absolutely the cheat sheet I was working on from us discussing earlier. That's definitely something that's the most powerful thing about this whole venture. And yeah, as we dove into the 2K community, I'm picturing the trash talking videos that you see for Madden, et cetera, and the legendary ones earlier on. It's not that way. Those accounts exist to help people kind of find each other and really be able to relate to each other. And dealing with some of the pro-am guys, even the local guys, they've found people across the country who they're really close with now because they've been doing this, and that's kind of their closest friendships that they've built. So there's a total interaction within gaming, and it's not bound by where you're located, which again is another exciting element to the league that we can get into.
Yeah, and I mean, especially to you guys, you are in a unique situation to where you have really two markets. You have your market in state, and then you're very close to Chicago, which at this point doesn't have its own franchise. So that's awesome how you're able to sort of dip in to a huge secondary market.
Yeah, of course. And we want to speak to it as a Midwestern region. So you have other Midwestern teams that are participating. You have Cleveland, you've got Detroit, you've got Indy, you've got them, all around that eastern side. But if we're looking at the western side of Lake Michigan, you've got us, you've got Chicago, and you've got Minneapolis, and we're the only team participating in year one. Really what we want to do with that role is kind of grow an esports community in general, be a galvanizing organization for kind of all these different populations that follow League of Legends, follow Smash, follow Dota, follow CSGO, and really just galvanize them, give them a really professional experience, really tie them all together. And I hinted at the last time, and I'll try to get the wording right again, but really integrate 2K into that community as well, because it's kind of really disguised as a sports title, but it truly hits on all of the themes that are in those other ones: the role players, the 5-on-5, the team aspects, and then kind of that support player, attack player, and defending players, all really is integrated into kind of the 5-on-5 features. So we're looking to do that as a Midwest. And then once Chicago and Minneapolis are participating in year 2, they'll have fans that are diehard Bulls fans, that are diehard T-Wolves fans, that will be happy to hop on their bandwagon. So we want to grow the whole community. That it's about developing that whole esports scene first, and then we can find out who's really fans of who as we get into this.
Exactly. I'm really glad you brought up that analogy, because for someone who, like, I'm not as versed in esports as most people in the scene. So when you drew that comparison, it's like, it's no different than playing a role in League or playing a role in Overwatch. I was like, wow, he's totally right. Like, it has this idea of like, no, all 5 guys do the same thing, but no, not exactly. Not when you have a team and a coach working towards a common goal, as opposed to 5 guys playing individually, even if they play as a team, like on Pro-Am. So I love that analogy. It's awesome. And that's the way you can get fans of an Overwatch or a League to come look at 2K now, because it doesn't have such a sports feeling to it, which I know some people feel a certain type of way about. Like, they just don't want, they would, for some reason, like, I don't want my sports and my esports to mix.
And that's what I would say, is like, we are still a sports title, and everyone around the world, the 600 million people around the world that love the NBA product, they'll recognize it immediately in what 2K can deliver, from the graphics to the experience to the excellence gap, again, that you may want to dive into later. But it can relate to this really endemic esports space as well. And it's not because we want League of Legends fans, or we want Dota fans, or we want Overwatch fans. It's because there is just an appetite for that type of dynamic, and it means that everyone that I'm watching really has a purpose. And I want to delve into each one of those people. And there are introverted people that find the guys that aren't the flashy superstars, but are crucial to their teams, and you can highlight that in these type of games. They can find an identity in those guys too. So everyone really becomes a celebrity. It adds depth to all of our players. It adds depth to our team, rather than a one-on-one, which also introduces the AI factor. Not Allen Iverson, but artificial intelligence. It adds that computer simulation mode if it's just a one-on-one and there's 4 other computer players controlling the rest.
Yeah. So I kind of want to get into some of the more topical elements of conversation, like the news that just dropped today about the Combine. I'm sure you, like, of course, all of the directors knew about it ahead of time. What's the response you've been getting to what's the limited amount of information that's been released?
Yeah, I mean, it's overall been perceived well. There are definitely logistics that people want to potentially adjust, but we've really kind of taken that holistic approach. And again, I think we talked about it last time. We want to take into account the geographical locations and the time zones that change, and that's difficult. We totally understand. We hear you. We're exploring how else we can service that, but we really tried to lay out as even a playing field for around the world as we possibly could. Apologies if it doesn't feel that way, but it was truly the goal of the league. I'm surprised you didn't hop into 6th man Lou Will first. But we can do that later. But no, for the Combine, it's been received well, and I think people are just excited for the next step. And I said the catchphrase a lot the last time we interviewed was, it's finally real. We're finally ready to take the next step. There's more information, so people are devouring it. So like I said, I think overall it's been received really well, and people are just antsy and excited to get to the next step. And congrats to everyone who qualified, and it will continue to qualify through January, and we'll be in the Combine.
Yeah, and I mean, I thought that was actually what you referenced, the most interesting part, that now we're expanding to, what is it, 106 or 109 players?
102.
102.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. So that introduces an element that most people probably didn't think about before. Like, is the league going to, I guess, have minutes restrictions so that you're required to play that 6th man and shuffle people around, which I think would be a good idea. I'm always for more players getting into the league than less. But I mean, without revealing anything, what do you think is that? Do you think that might be a way they're heading to make sure that everyone at least gets into the game once it starts the season?
We strongly feel that the talent pool is actually, as large as our most optimistic idea was, we really feel that we can field 102, and it would really be the true cream of the crop. There wouldn't start to be this gray area of, were these people truly the top? So, I mean, it was the fact that we knew we could get there. Logistically for teams, it was interesting because the league was, exploring a reserve, an injury reserve type of reserve for players in case family emergency, an illness, an actual injury were to occur, you could fill in your roster, and being able to have a sixth man of your own culture, of your own drafting, et cetera, was really an interesting dynamic that they'd been exploring for a while. And us as the teams in the league, we've had many a formal call debating this extra element, and I think we just weighed out that it's going to be a great dynamic for teams. I mean, nobody's position is safe, so you can always introduce kind of that rivalry and that competition as well that drives everyone to be their best. So we're really excited to finally have another player on the roster that we haven't yet formed. But it's a cool element, and we're really excited. And again, the sixth man role is very interesting. TBD on how they may be playing within the game. But the NBA will send out that information, and we will retweet it left and right.
Hey, that is one thing you do not have to worry about. Information spreads like wildfire in this community. Like, I had saw the tweet had been out for like 58 seconds, like 200 retweets. How is that even possible?
I think I was the second to like your tweet today. So
hey, I appreciate that. It was a fun day being on Twitter. Everyone being really excited. So that's amazing. That's a really great environment to foster in this community.
It's only going to get better too. There's only going to be more information.
Yeah, and I mean, we touched on this. Like, you guys are strictly working on logistics. Imagine when you guys get to start pumping your own content that you're putting time and resources into. I feel like that's really going to be when it goes to a whole nother level as far as interaction and engagement.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the news did address some of the elements or did address some rumors that have been going around, like, what kind of player am I going to use during the combine? Like, will I have selection? We found that there are some things that you are going to be able to control. What advice do you have for someone who's got their 50 and they're figuring out, well, like, I know I can control this. Maybe I can't control like my shot or my style or something like that. What would your advice be to prospect?
Yeah, it's interesting. So there will be the 5 archetypes per position to choose from. So there will still be adjustments that you can play to your strengths no matter what position you end up selecting. Go for the position that you want to play. I mean, I think this whole league needs to be built off of the dream. It's going to be you getting drafted by an NBA franchise. Do it the way you want to do it, and demand excellence. Be the best player you can there. I don't think there's going to be ways to game the system. They'll give you that flexibility amongst archetypes. I mean, there should be the best at shooting of each position in each archetype. There should be the best of handles at each position at each archetype. So pick a position that you would love to be drafted to the NBA by, and run out that dream and really, put your all into it. I think that's the best I can answer right now.
Hey, I'm sure people will appreciate the response, especially since you haven't had a lot of time to let it marinate and let it sink in and get some outside feedback. Something else that keeps coming up, I don't even know how it's possible, is that you guys already know what your teams are going to be. You already know who you're drafting. So why have like the formality of the combine, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we already have our top 5. Yeah, we have our top 6 now.
Yeah, you got top 6. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Can we just briefly talk about why that's not even possible? Like, no one should be really saying that at this point.
Please. So I think the Bucks specifically, trying not to be too familiar with all the conversation we had last time.
I know.
Bucks specifically, we have not initiated any official scouting protocol, any scouting execution in terms of, here is exactly what we're looking for. Here are the guys that will be in this threshold, and here are the guys that will be without this threshold. I can tell you the things you've seen most of the managers, if not all of them. I just don't want to speak in generalities, but what most of the managers have put out as, here's what we're looking for in terms of content and character, being a positive influence, if not a neutral influence to the community. And then just being the best 2K player you can be. That's going to be the most demanding parts of what we're looking for. Bucks specifically, from a cultural standpoint, from the organization down, we're looking for people that will best represent our brand And one of the things in our brand is winning a championship, of course. But I think there are crucial points in our brand that our fans resonate with. When you're not going to win every single year in a row, we're going to win as many in a row as we possibly can. But there are going to be down years, and it's when what you've done for your fans and your fan service that really pays off later on in that. So to get back to, will you get drafted? Will you not get drafted? You do not need 10,000 followers on Twitter. That will not be a part of it. We are going to be looking at the data that comes out of the combine specifically as raw data, doing some analysis, doing regression analysis on that data, looking into players because we want good people. So having a social presence obviously helps us determine high level, what type of person you are. Clean that up if you haven't yet.
Or just play the streams on mute.
Yeah, please. Turn your mic off if you're not using it to communicate to your teammates positively. But no, I mean, we get trash talking happens. We play the game. We know the heat of the moment. So there are curse words that happen sometimes. But as long as it's not rooted in hate, as long as it's not rooted towards a culture, fine. Anyway, we have not initiated scouting. We are aware of these top players, but we don't care because who's going to be draft eligible is the most important part. I mean, there are great people in the community, and seeing some of the best guys around our local area has been amazing because it's refreshing. We know that there are good people that are at least competitive at this game, and we can't wait to formalize that and really form a team.
Awesome. And then I've got a couple Twitter questions that people submitted, but really quickly, any chance Jason Kidd is a part of season 1 for BucksGG?
That's again. No, we did not make that transition due to the fact that we were taking him over to BucksGG. We thank Jason for turning this 15-win franchise into a playoff caliber team. It was a big move that we needed to do, and it was just something that fit from the ownership down. That there needed to be a change at that position, and Jason took it professionally, and he's moving on to his next venture, and we wish him all the best. But no, he will not be part of BucksGG. I know Dirk is looking forward to that, unfortunately. Dirk, the position is still open.
Yeah, I saw him throwing his hat in the ring. Yeah. So to get some of the Twitter questions, guys, you will get your screenshot shout out right here, right in the middle of us. First one is from Thurber Sr. His question is about an age cap. Like, is it possible that there's a 45, 50-year-old player, if he's good enough, living in a game house with you guys?
100%. We would love a 70-year-old to play for our team. If they fit the culture and they could help us win a championship, 100%. So no, there's not an age restriction, from the top side. I think you obviously need to be healthy enough to be doing a lot of traveling. You need to be able to be healthy enough to put in 8 to 10 hours a day of work, of fitness, of diet. We can obviously cater that to certain people if they have certain pre-existing conditions. We don't want to exclude anyone, but we want healthy, fit people that want to be part of something greater than what they're currently at, and that does not exclude any type of age groups.
Sounds good. Moving on, this one's from Killaphila 76ers. This is a scouting question. Asking you, calling you out, like, have you seen at the Made Men Pro-Am team play? Feel like they're one of the more underrated squads.
Have not checked out at the Made Men Pro-Am. As I promised you in the last one, we will definitely check them out. We watch it all the time, and we geek out to it all the time. Like I said, so we haven't started a formal set of scouting, but we've watched a lot of different people's Twitch streams. We've seen a lot of different players. We want to know who's already good and how are they good. That's the most crucial part. Like, what is the most demanding part of this game, and what do we see in a lot of these top guys? We will check out Made Men Pro-Am. It's definitely Andrew Buck, who we brought on, has a lot of history of esports personnel management, both locally and remotely. That's exactly why we brought him on. It's definitely one of his core competencies. So we can't wait to exercise him as much as possible, driving to the best players. We'll check you out.
Awesome. Final one comes from a guy Thomas Lynch, a fellow content creator. He's asking if you guys plan on hosting any community events like we've seen in Detroit, Cleveland, and Dallas.
Yeah, there will be community events, and they will be run by the BucksGG. We want to make sure, like I hinted at the beginning of this, that we're pitching to kind of the entire esports community. We want to really have it integrated. We find that a lot of the people actually overlap. From first-person shooters is the lowest hanging fruit, but there's actually, like I said, a huge Smash community that crosses over, and then actually of the 80 million U.S. domestic avid NBA sports fans, about 10 million of them are watching esports at least once a month. They're one of these new zoo esports enthusiasts. So they already love existing endemic competitive play. So I think there's a huge crossover. Like I said, it's disguised as a sports title, but it's truly one of these traditional esports, and it's going to be really exciting. So we're looking for that broader esports community event, and 2K will definitely be a population we're looking to get in front of and meet and service. But it's fans of esports. Let's grow this community. Let's be a part of it.
Yeah, perfect. Two quick things. Shout out to Newzoo. My company eats their stuff up. Like we use it in all of our decks and pitches. So they do great research over there. And then, shit, I totally forgot what I was gonna say. It's been one of those days, man. Dude, thank you so much for joining me. I know you're trying to leave work. Guys, Colin Hayes, co-managing director of BucksGG, kind enough to take some more time out of his week to talk with us and answer your questions. Colin, anything else you want to say?
Yeah, always got time. Always got time for people trying to dive into esports. Always got time for anybody that wants to talk 2K. People have found our personal Twitter feeds, which is perfectly fine. We love the DMs. We love interacting. BucksGG is our Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We also have BucksGG.com. Please check that out for any other information. We've been doing a lot of these FAQs. Now with this combine information out, we'll be releasing more of those. That will be housed there as well. And I teased last time that we're working on a video series with a couple 2K community members. We had them in, we talked to them, we did some stuff. So that'll be coming out shortly, probably beginning of February, but we'll be teasing it. People get hype, and then we'll deliver that, and that'll be housed also on BucksGG.com. So we're looking forward to it. Thank you for having me. I think I said it the first time, pioneers get rewarded, and you're really diving into this with both feet. So we really appreciate it, and happy to make the time whenever, Braxton.
Hey, thank you so much, man. Hey, if we're ever in person, like if we're at an event or a draft, like your dinner and your drinks are on me. Thank you so much for taking your time, Colin.
Find yourself in Milwaukee. We'll have you out, man.
Hey, don't tempt me. I might do it.